You have been a lot of actors on this healthcare.
Okay. This is your slides.
Sorry?
This is your slide.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, should I start? Are we starting? Good morning, everyone. So I think I'm on Zoom and I think we're starting the session right now. My name is Pavani Munjaluri. I am the co-founder and CEO for Cognitive Health. And I think the reason I'm here is Marinka has reached out a few months ago to talk about AI and actual applications of AI in real world. And my company, Cognitive Health, we've been trying to do that since late 2018, 2019. Things are very different now. But I thought and we discussed about what would be a good topic to talk about. So first off, I am not a coder, I'm not a developer. I think I bring the perspective from the end user and the customer. So in my role now and previously, I've been responsible for customer success and customer engagement. So how do our products and services and solutions impact and have a value for the end customer has been my goal. So I've been working in the healthcare industry for the longest. And I'll start off by giving a quick examples. I'm sure you've heard, I don't know if any of you are from healthcare or not, but I'm sure you would have heard of healthcare denials, healthcare wastage. $4 trillion of our economy is spent in healthcare, and all of those big numbers. So one of the key things is, when you go to the hospitals, physicians, or health systems, you have denials. They have denials based on whatever claims they're submitted, and there's a big machinery which tries to collect this money back to the from the insurance companies to the providers and the health systems. So one of the very first AI-based use cases we had worked back in the day was, can we help these health systems identify the kind of claims before they are sent out and flag them as potentially denied? We're almost solving world hunger, right? So they don't have to follow up denials. Nothing is getting lost. Everything sounds perfect. So someone can come in and flag the claims and work on that. And voila, everything is perfect. So we did the POC for that, took a bunch of data from a large health system, academic medical center, about 3,000 beds. We took their 3 years worth of data, looked at all the claims which got denied, looked at the characteristics of the claims, and we kind of did all of these different models to do a POC on what would be the potential claims which would be denied. No one bought into that. None of the stakeholders bought into that because they wanted us to describe in detail why a particular claim 1, 2, 3 is picked and not the 4, 5, 6, even though they had similar traits, characteristics, demographics, all of that stuff. And this was 2018, 2019, and we would get away by saying it's a black box. Even though the results were correct, their staff members looked at the results and the output of the models. We could not give them the real, we couldn't really do that in breakdown on why certain claims have been picked up versus not the others. Fast forward 6 months, 1 year later, there's a simpler use case to say, can you take our unstructured documents, now that AI has a little bit more maturity within an year, can you have OCRs, you have NLPs, can you take my unstructured document and help us eliminate the manual work, which is entailed by looking at the documents, categorizing the documents, identifying what kind of a document is that, and then putting it into the downstream workflow. So that was again, another use case which the client, because they saw that we did the POC for them, even though they did not pick it up, even though the staff was good with the results, we didn't have the solid reasoning which the senior management required, because they don't want to touch something which was going out of the door and add another additional time frame before the claim is sent out, various reasons. But then they came back to us and said, hey, we have all these unstructured documents, which are either PDFs and JPEGs and, you know, all of those unstructured documents. They're either they come in from the bank mailbox, or they come in as a physical mail, and some staff members scan those documents. Can you help automate this process? Was another POC which we did. Again, when we submitted the initial results, the results were 70% accurate and 30% incorrect when you did the manual review. And again, we said, hey, this is a black box. I cannot tell you why the model is calling a certain document an explanation of benefits, and a certain document an approval letter or denial letter, but it meets the criteria of what your team has given us historically. So we kind of went back to the drawing board to figure out how can we make what's happening inside that black box more visible, as we call the glass box is what I've been hearing recently. How do we make the black box, the glass box has been our endeavor during the last, I think, 1.5, 2 years. And happy to share that. Oh, okay, page down. Some of the results are out there, and we've been working on this product and tool for a while now, and successfully, I think we are about 90+% of accuracy for where we are right now. And we really dig deep into this solution and automation to figure out how can we make this more explainable, as we say. I think that was, again, in my agenda today. I wanted to talk a little bit of what's the challenges in healthcare and why do we need the explainable AI, as we call it. And I'll talk about a case study and our view of what the challenges and future recommendations or where this is going. Everything is, you know, don't quote me on this 6 months down the line, this may or may not be true. But again, just bringing your attention back to the landscape of healthcare and why this is so important for us. I've been in healthcare for 20+ years. I've seen different trends of EMR adoption, ICD-10 codes changing. I've seen the RPA coming up. You know, we've seen the outsourcing phase. So this is the new phase. And I, you know, personally feel that this is something which will eventually help, you know, all the wastage what we have in the system to eliminate that and give everybody the opportunity to bring value to the patients, which is what everybody in healthcare industry talks about, both on the payer side and the provider side. COVID did not add much to this, you know, the burgeoning costs which were coming up in healthcare, the staff shortages, as well as the extreme pressures on different kinds of care models have come up. You're not just, the patient is not just walking into a physician's office or a hospital system. There's telehealth, there's remote monitoring, there's so many other different kind of care models. All of this just added to the amount of data and the complexity of data available to make all those decisions and make those workflows much more automated and seamless. With that, and again, as I said, the AI adoption has been limited, and I'm not sure. Okay.
You can use the left right arrows to do page up, page down.
But I still can't get my images here, so. That was a good slide. That was the best slide, I tell you. I can't get that. So I think we're trying to share here that, you know, if you're in the traditional machine learning system, you had the training data, you had the models, you had some level of quality check, etc. And then the results would go to the end user for the output and how the end user would want to use the output. In the explainable AI model, we want to uncover the onion a little bit in terms of when the output is coming, what are the criteria, what is the reason why certain outputs are, you know, the way they are. And that's what the explainability comes in. And the beautiful image is not coming up, but anyway, so it'll, you know, it's in the Google slide, so you will see that if you have access to that, but I can't get that here. But so what we think, again, I have a, you know, awesome team. I work with an awesome team. They're great. Done a bunch of projects, all their year they spent on this, and now they're focused on the LLMs or the large language models, trying, I'm not going to say the word chat GPT, but I'm saying it, trying to bring that into some kind of real world use cases. We're looking at all of those things. So, you know, as a team, we've been working. COVID didn't really give us much scope to do too much marketing and sales. So that kind of helped us hone into what we're doing in the product side. How are we talking to the customers? What are the real world problems? The first and the foremost is getting the real high quality data. This is always in real world situations, that's the most painful thing. You ask for, can you give me 3 years of data? There is no one click of button which sends you the 3 years of data. Just to get those 3 years of data or even 3 months of data, there is 6 months of paperwork process and trying to bring everybody together. So that itself is an uphill task. What we had done, the first 2 use cases I talked about was we tried to create our own dummy data, if you will. So we got like a months of data and we used another model to replicate the information in these 1 month of data to make it worth 3 times the original size of the data we got, but that didn't really do good for us. So anyway, long story short, so that's a big starting point for us to look at. And there's a lot of pre-processing required before for the data to be available for training in the models we are using. This all of the methodologies what you have are a little bit more technical, and I won't get into the details of explaining what these are, but there are areas where the use case doesn't require for us to open the black box. There are use cases where the results are good enough. You don't need to go back and figure out why such and such a thing has happened. So we were very judicious in what kind of models we are using for use cases where I don't need to bring in a neural network. I can just do, template-based modeling for me to figure out a certain output, and it'll give me pretty good accuracy for the output. I don't need to go back and figure out why that is. So we need to be very mindful of what models are going into your use case and if that's relevant for that, and some which will call for the detailed reasoning, if it's a clinician information, physician information, or anything to do with financial information where it's a very sensitive thing. But if you're talking about, can you split my document 25 different ways and it's accurate, we are good to go. You don't need to go back and figure out. So, so based on that, you need to figure out which models will work best for you. And once you have leveraged whatever models and the data, a post analysis of the output is required in terms of feedback from both the developers as well as the end users for us to be able to take the additional data coming in the day-to-day operations and usage and bring that into retrain your models. I think the continuous feedback loop is one of the very important things because, and again, this is a separate topic. I'm sure there's somewhere the ethics and the bias and all of that, even looking at the historical data is real. We have seen that in many cases where you have a smaller team and one person does a certain activity or a job in a certain way, it has always been an error. And when you take the overall data, you continue to pick that error as one of your rules and one of your, all of that which comes into building that model. So that's real, and you need to be able to do that. Did I get it? No. Just want to talk a little bit on how, as I mentioned earlier, that one of the things which we have done in the explainable AI field or space is looking at the document classification, document management for the healthcare space. The problem statement or the use case, as I was mentioning earlier, is this is an academic medical center. They have about, I think, 3,000 beds. They get upwards of 25,000 documents per month, which come to them in batches, different batches, 30, 40 batches. Each batch has multiple documents in them. And each of that batch has a mixed bag of documents. So it could be an explanation of benefits. It could be a patient letter. It could be an attorney letter. It could be a request for medical records from the insurance companies, all kinds of mixed bag. So staff members have to look at that document, scroll through that entire batch, identify page 1 to 5 is so-and-so, page 6 to 25 is so-and-so. And that's how they identify each of those documents and what type of document is that. And then they will look at that document number 1 and identify the patient name, the MRN number, whatever is the identifiers and demographics, and attach it back to their EMR system. And that's the loop which will help the downstream activities of whoever is working on the EMR. So that's the whole process is a manual process. So I'm working on a batch. I need to take a coffee break. I'm done. So my batch is half stuck. I'm gone out for an hour. Nobody's working on the batch. There's a denial letter sitting in there for a period of time. There are multiple, as you can imagine, there are multiple implications of the manual way of working on these batches and the content of information sitting in those batches. So there are And this particular client was running 90 days behind on catching up on their documents, which means that if they receive a denial letter, it's been not attended, not looked at for 90 days. And which means that they've left money on the table, because unless you appeal within a certain period of time, you won't get the money back. So all of those issues brought them to look at automated way of doing this process. Again, as I mentioned early on, we did the POC in 2018, 2019. The client asked a lot of questions on why is this an EOB? Why does it look like your model is calling this an EOB? So, we couldn't really go back to the next layer and next layer back in the day. But since then, we have, again, used a lot of combination of different models, customized, available models out there to build, again, I don't want to use all those words because you might be more familiar with that, the BERT and the decision trees and transformers and various kinds of model techniques we have used to split the process where it is required for us to go and peel the onion and share exactly why the model is behaving in a certain way, and in the other areas where it doesn't have to be doing that. So the three key activities which is being done automatically is the batch gets split into individual documents automatically. Each individual document is labeled or categorized separately on what type of a document is that. And each document, information from each of that document is extracted and tied in or aligned with the specific EMR or whatever is the application where it needs to go sit for further downstream activity. So all of this is
all of your data digital, or some of it you get faxed and something of that nature as well, or so?
Everything is a scanned image. Everything is a scanned image. So yeah, yes, we do that. That's what we do. Yeah, so again, so this and again, another visual of what we do. Again, as I said earlier, the initial data collection is very important. In this case, we also had to do a lot of pre-processing of the data. Even though we were getting a lot of scanned images, they were not the right quality. We couldn't read a bunch of them. The models could not read a lot of them. So we set up another pre-processing step within that process to say, let's now standardize the documents before it is passed through the model. So we have done a lot of standardizing the DPI. We got rid of the blank pages because that was throwing the model off. Having a blank page in between the model was, that was one of those things we figured, and we realized that was throwing the model off. So taking that, and then the client would be like, it's a blank page, it's not a problem for the humans. Why is it a problem? So things like that we've uncovered over a period of time. And there is no standard template. Like we tried to figure out, is there a first page, last page? You have the to address, from address, bottom, all of that stuff. So we've tried a bunch of these things, but we figured we need to have a pre-processing model before the documents come into the categorization model, before it even comes to the splitting model. So that's the work we had to do with that. And again, doing that really helped standardizing to 300 DPI, taking off the blank papers. Some pages used to be upside down because some human is scanning those pages. So the 1 and 2 are right, and the 4, 3 is upside down. So, all of that work, it entailed all of that work, which I think was helped us get into the accuracy where we were. So again, initially we were only at 70% in some case. Again, it depends on how much data you have, right? So for the last year or 2 years of data they had a lot more explanation of benefits. So my explanation of benefits accuracy was closer to like 99, 98, but an approval or denial letter were much lower. So the accuracy was, so much lower, 70s and 75s. And unless we had a threshold that unless it crosses 80, that would not be put into production and workflow. So then, and since it's one of those things we need to, okay, this is where I need my presentation, guys. I'm sorry. This is a PDF here. So otherwise you would have seen all these screens. So what we had done, all this black box, glass box, we made that available to the end user. So these are all our different screens, as you can see. If I clicked each button, one screen would have come and I would have talked through that. But what we had done is, as I mentioned, the feature extraction, which we did to classify the documents, the contextual reading. So there are words, patient name, explanation of benefits, insurance company, but that doesn't equal to EOB. It could equal to anything else. So the models have to read the document in the context of the rest of the document. The models had to prioritize what features to pick, what data elements to pick. And we pushed all of that into a client-facing screen to say, here you see it's an approval letter. So it will tell you all the contributing words and the OCR words, which the model picked up why that particular document is considered qualified as an approval letter. And you would have, there are different, and one more thing, which I think I didn't mention earlier, was mentioning, but it's there on the first screen somewhere. We have not just used one model to categorize these documents. We used 3 different kind of models and took the probability of all the 3 models and used that information to run another model on top of that to take the best of the 3 and go back and bump it against the historical or the standard documents, what we have to project that. So you will see there are 3 different models in one of the things. The clients can see that model A is calling your approval letter at 80% probability, model B is calling it a 90 plus, and model C is doing a 70 plus. So then we'll take that information and we're running another set of model on top of that to identify that it's what's the percentage of probability for that particular document to be an approval letter. And that's what we categorize that as. The other feature we have here is all the OCR and contributing words. So the clients and users can see this, and they can add, delete, edit additional information within this to say that, hey, even if you see, there's a DRG code or an ICD code, put that in my different bucket or different basket kind of thing. And so they can add to these words. The retraining of model is what is most important for us here. All those user correction you see there, that has a drop down, and it has other different categories of documents which can be picked up. So for any reason, the user ascertains that this is not an approval letter, but it's a different kind of letter, that goes and that gets stored into the database, and that data is used for retraining the model for the next iteration, and that's what it has been happening. I think I have a few more minutes, and I think this is my last slide. So challenges, again, you guys must be all more familiar with the challenges. I think from our perspective, as I mentioned, I think the biggest thing is when is accuracy more important, and when is what more important than why of it. We are very cognizant of that. As I mentioned, the letter splitting, the client didn't care how the model split the letter as long as the split letter was accurate. So they were fine with that. So we used traditional OCR, improved, enhanced, tesseract, all of that kind of stuff. But in the categorization part, they were very, very focused on why is the model behaving certain way? What will happen tomorrow if a different kind of letter comes in? All of those questions. So in that particular, for that particular, we've used models which are BERT and all those explainable or interpretable models, and then that information can be showcased to the end user and the clients. And all of what we have learned is all of these models which are available for us to use, they're not industry specific. So you need to spend a lot more time building the vocabulary, the data dictionaries, everything which are relevant for healthcare, for whichever industry, and you spend a lot of time doing that. So that's another area where we have looked at that. And now we see, again, this is not new, specifically in healthcare, regulatory and compliance and all of that, how much data is shared, what data, de-identified data, there are a lot of nuances and rule. In fact, just yesterday, we received an email from another partnership we have with another third-party vendor for API-based transactions of data to relook and revisit, audit all of that and have a newer agreement, because their further clients have changed their contracts and agreements. So, that means that we have to make changes to our what we are using and the analysis we are doing. So all of that. So that's continues to be challenges which we will need to work through. Future directions. There's both sides of the aisle, right? There's a lot of scare around what will this kind of thing AI do, and how will this will impact what we are doing, and etc. But we already use that. People don't, as I'm sure you may not be you, but the other general people use that in Facebook. We use that for any of the Google search engines. All of that is, there's so much AI running behind, but we are so used to that. But when it comes to our professional work, our jobs, our work day-to-day work, what we do, and we need to do and use an AI or automation and things like that, that kind of questions on, hey, can I trust this? Will it be predictable? Will this, continue to do what I'm doing? Will it break? So all of those considerations, even though it will be working right now, it's kind of one of those things where we need to be thinking outside the box, not as a human doing it, but like what happens. A lot of what if scenarios gets built, and I think that's where I think the actual value and benefit of AI would be in use cases. When we have seen that when we are working with one group of people at a client side, the data and the analytics and all of that we are doing has impact on multiple other functions and business units around them, but they don't come together to work because it's one business unit, one cost center, whatever may be the case. So that's, I think, is very, very powerful. These tools are very powerful. It's like bringing in a chainsaw to do a tiny surgery, whatever, wrong analogy, but there's much more power to all the models we have, the data we have. The benefits are just trickling down to smaller areas where the end users are more willing to accept and adopt to these technologies versus having a much larger global scale of interventions and automation driven and AI driven projects for the enterprise level. That would be where the actual impact of all of this would be coming in. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you very much. If I could be provocative a little bit, I feel like explainable AI is oftentimes a red herring. People who want to use AI don't ask questions, and people who don't use explainable AI as an excuse. And you could try to explain all you want, you're still not getting at the root cause of why they don't want to use an AI solution.
Agree. The other nuance to that is if I put myself in, situations where our customers have asked us for, hey, why is this the way this is? I totally agree with what, the questions which come towards us. Hey, right now this is doing 90%, for example. Tomorrow my bank changes the way they are packaging the batches and sending it. So will your AI be robust enough to take it to the next level? For that, I need to know how that is happening right now. I need to know why that is splitting into 25 documents or 20 documents or 10 documents. First 4 pages, I need to know that now. And that is one. And two, I think even for adoption, if you're able to build trust, I think that is a relatively less uphill road for us to get more people involved rather than saying, this is the box, take it or leave it, is what my experience has been.
So since you mentioned that building the trust, what is in your opinion the best way to actually build the trust with your main stakeholders or clients?
For us, we did a water tin guardrail area. We took a small area where even if it fails, nobody's going to die, nothing is going to happen. They're not going to go bankrupt. It's a small area where we put the guardrails there and said, let's try this for 1 month. Let's try this and very small. It's not, we'll just try for 1 month, and very, very slow, snail paced approach. So initially, even though our model could split all different categories and all different types, we only presented to them one type. We said, take the only EOBs, because we also wanted the users to look at that and give us feedback and help the model retrain. So instead of overwhelming them, that the model was ready, we were ready, we could turn it on. But when we started on a phased approach, let's just do the EOBs first, which is the remits or the explanation of benefits. We did that for a month. And we got, a lot of feedback. This is correct. This is correct. It is just their management listening and hearing from their staff. This is correct for a period of time, helped us move a little faster, I guess. But again, small pieces, small chunks, and human in the loop. This is another thing which you keep hearing a lot. Human in the loop initially to get the right feedback and get them to say it is good. Like from outside, if I, as a partner or a vendor, if I tell my model is great, that doesn't mean anything unless the user is telling that their tool is good. They don't care whether it's explainable or not. For them, they need to be able to tell their supervisors and managers that this is doing the job accurately and this will reduce the workload on them. And that's the only way. That was the way we used. We also did different ways of doing it. We just did one facility at a time. Then we did only hospitals for a time. Then we did physician documents. So we kind of did that, and that's the way we expanded.
Great presentation. How are you currently getting any handwritten notes or documents, and how are you handling that?
There are tools out there. We haven't touched them yet. We do get certain handwritten notes in cases where a physical mail has come to the office and someone made a note, send to so and then scanned and send it to us. And that's something which we are working on. That is one. We also get some checks, not the electronic, the manual checks, patient payments, etc., which we are able to identify based on the patient name, and which more template based and easier. There's a dollar amount and all of that. But anything more than that, we haven't been really successful in handwritten. There are tools out there. There are companies out there which they are doing. But as I said, these are not specific. It has to be industry specific. So that was not healthcare. So there's too much work on our part to use some of those tools.
See it listed in the presentation. By the
Thank
way.
you.
I didn't see it listed in the challenge so like last year. But being in the healthcare industry, have you seen your clients expressing intellectual issues with what they are trying to do with you, by using your models or?
So the output belongs to them. Whatever we do, output belongs to them. We don't sign any. So let me take a step back. So initially, when we came with this AI-driven platform, AI platforms and everything, some of the clients wanted IP belongs to us. So then we said, nobody from your team is giving, you're not spending time on this. You're just giving us data. What is the IP you're talking about? So it's a data is yours. We are not going to use the data or any of these things. But the output is theirs. The data is theirs. The decisions which come out of the data is all theirs. So, but we have the ability to use their de-identified data to build and enrich and make these models more intelligent. So we have those kind of things, but no IP pushback or no IP fights on any of this so far.
Follow-up question.
Sure.
I've been, watching the segment.
Sure, yeah.
Same question I've been asking.
Happy to learn more, yes.
But your model is getting smarter using customer data.
Correct.
So have you had that question come to you, and what was your response, and how is the industry moving along in the direction?
I don't think, again, no, anybody in healthcare space here? Oh my God. I wanted to say they're not that smart, but I don't think I've had this one or two CIOs conversations where they had this thing, but it is not seeped into their legal, and it is not seeped into the rest of the domains for them to put this. But also the other point to that is, it is not just one client data, it's multiple client data. I'm not just using one client data to enhance the model. These are multiple de-identified data from multiple sources, right? So that it's not one client. So it's not proprietary to one specific client. And two, I guess, so it's an interesting, I don't think I've come across anyone saying that, but it's an interesting thing. Interesting. Yeah.
It highlights the importance of how you construct your data use agreements with your clients. And you want to make them as broad as
Yep.
possible, because to her point, their models are generalizable, right? It would be different if you were creating client-specific models or whatnot, then one could argue.
Sure.
that. But if your models are generalizable and you have the right data use agreements in place, you're ironclad.
I've seen that issue come up many times with, in pharmaceutical work.
Mhm.
And a lot of times then when you see is issues like, we'll give you the algorithm in your own environment, with your own data, and your data doesn't need to be environment. So there is the distinction between algorithm and data, even though they're actually.
Right.
So people are starting to say.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a very interesting talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have three questions.
Sure.
One question that follow up. You just kind of, I was listening to your response, right? Initially, I thought, okay, you have access to all the documents. You have someone uses identify information for linking the patient to the case, whatever.
Right.
But then you said you are also receiving the de-identified documents.
No, we are not we are not receiving de-identified. I'm saying for other kinds of models, not for document, but for other, so the claims data, what I talked about, the claims use case or anything else, we get the data, we de-identify them to put that in the overall universe of training data sets, not this one. So even if you look at this, right, you'll see all the blackout.
Yeah.
So you can't really tell who's there. So we do this for the actual data, the claim data, the 837, the 835s. You don't see the patient name. We don't get all of that, but you have the other attributes which help our models to build the models and use that as a training data. These ones are what you get.
Okay. So the second question, because you are using the AI for this business process optimization,
Mhm.
right? So have you thought about maybe the industry could have a different solution, maybe change the business process in the first place, right?
Mhm.
So when the patient or whoever submitted the claim uploading the documents, why let them to upload the whole documents together? It's like, hey, we should upload this document to this category, this category. I'm just saying this is a simple
Sure.
example, right? Change the business from the data collecting source to solve the problem instead of you trying to develop this
Sure.
whole complicated AI pipelines to keep us that again. So what?
Have you heard US healthcare is a mafia? I've been here for 20 years. When I first started working, I was in India. Back in the day when outsourcing was just a thing. And I was, fresh out of my MBA school, and we needed team leaders to manage whatever the work was. So I had to quickly learn healthcare system, and then all these questions. I'm like, why are they doing the transcription and sending it here? Like, why can't they just record and send it, or the patient sign it off, right? There were so many such questions, and I was hoping that it's been 20 years that things would have changed. And I'm 20 years older, it is still the same. It is still the same. Things have changed when they say there's an adoption. Instead of paper, it's become digital, but it is still electronic. So then they say you've done a lot of, when you look at all the stats and information, Gartner reports and CAQH reports, they have the adoption, digital adoption is improved and increased, which means now instead of sending a manual patient letter, you get an electronic patient letter, but it is still a letter which someone is still again printing, taking it on a file and sending it to another department for them to take a look at. And again, the call center team will work and things like that. So, that is one of those things where I think everybody is talking about, but it's one of those things, I guess. I think they say healthcare is very slow for adoption. I've seen some cases where it has moved a little faster than the others, but otherwise, overall, it's a mafia. If you change it, nobody gets paid, neither me nor you. So, yeah. That I think that is one, but again, levity aside, it is when we also look at some of this AI automation and look at the business process, we advise the clients, and that is one of our things for me personally, that if you automate a shitty process, a bad process, it's going to be a bad process. It's going to be a inefficient automation, right? If I'm just replicating what the client is doing, it is still going to be that. So as an example, I'll tell you, so when we started looking at this and I'm getting a lot of the explanation of benefits, we went back to the client and said, you don't need to get this electronically. This is already in your system. So the client went and talked to their payers, whichever is they're getting from the payers, and the volume reduced. So they don't need to send this through this system. It can automatically come down because they don't have to do this. It comes directly to their systems and gets integrated. So we have noticed that over a period of time, 6 to 8 months, instead of 10,000 or whatever, it has come down to 6,000. You still have some smaller payers who don't do the electronic version, so they do that. So there are small changes, but you have to be aware of the end-to-end process. Is it even worth it? If we as vendors, partners, build very custom automation solutions for client A, those are not scalable and replicable for other clients. So we try to kind of bring some kind of semblance in the process to say, is it, can you live with this process?
Yeah. My last question is,
Sure.
the AI depends on the data. Right?
Yes.
And you have very, very specific domain-specific problem. So how can is it possible to work with academia, right, to produce some data, open data, right? And then maybe help with the academia to improve the algorithms to help you to develop better models. Maybe.
Ask that question, say that one more time, please.
Look,
Data,
kind of open source some of the data, you have the documents you have, right?
open source data,
Yeah, open source
Ah.
documents, so that way people can, academic people can develop better document the classification. That you can benefit later.
that again, since it's a, for some like purchase orders, documents, retail, you have a lot of open source data, which is not, bound by the compliance and regulatory for healthcare and pharmaceutical, you have all of this data it's my data technically, which the insurance company owns it and the provider owns it, but it's not available publicly. You have some information out there, a sample template here and there, but that data is monetized. There are companies which try to monetize all of this data, so it's not available freely, unfortunately. We tried, when we were exploring different tools to do this, one of the tools which was very good was, I think, Google-based tools, but for that you have to upload all the data to Google. Then we will lose the contracting, whatever we have with our clients, that it will not be shared. We will be breaking those contracts, so we cannot use, even though there are certain tools there, but we cannot use those tools. Okay, I think that's time up for me. Thank you so much, guys. It was wonderful. Thank you for great questions. Appreciate it.